Hello everyone, welcome to our talk show. Today we have with us Chaitanya Charan. He is an acclaimed author, mentor, life coach and a monk. He has been an invited speaker at several international conferences organized by UNESCO, where he has spoken on interface of science and spirituality, and he has also given lectures at colleges, universities and companies all over the world from Australia to America. He is the author of 18 books on contemporary application of spiritual wisdom, and his articles appear regularly in several Indian newspapers, which include the reputed Speaking Tree in the Times of India. So we are very happy to have you here and we welcome you.
Thank you.
So in this show we would like to learn a little bit more about how the ecology or the environment is related to spirituality, or how can we see from a spiritual viewpoint about the ecological problems that we are facing in this day and age, where the water, the air, the land, and there is so much pollution all over the world. How can we see this from a spiritual point of view, and what solutions it has to offer?
Yeah. Actually, the environmental crisis is probably among the world's biggest problems today, and many thinkers saying that we are on the verge of ecological disaster if we don't do anything. And there are multiple causes. Some of those may be natural, but definitely there is a substantial element of man-made causes. And rather than just looking specifically at if this industry is causing this much pollution, or this industry is this is the chemical that has gone so much high, carbon emission or whatever, the specifics are important to deal with at a specific level, but we have to go to fundamentals. And at a fundamental level, we have to examine the vision that we have of nature. If we look back at pre-industrial Europe and its worldview has actually spread all over the world, whether it is America or India or all over the world. So pre-industrialization Europe had a worldview which was very similar to the worldviews that were present in most of the ancient and medieval traditions. That was of subordination to nature. That nature had its own mysterious powers and balances, and we were advised not to tamper with them. Now, of course, we could argue at that time we did not have the technological power to subordinate nature, and that's why we were subordinate to them. And now that we have acquired technological power, then we should control it. And that was in fact the attitude that led to the indiscriminate exploitation of natural resources. So while trying to exploit resources like this, we overlooked in a blunderous way the many balances and interconnections that actually exist throughout the ecosystem of the world. The biosphere is a delicate balance, and when we try to fiddle with any one thing, thinking that okay, by mining we will get this minerals out, or by removing the forest we can expand our industries or whatever, this has to be done much more thoughtfully. There's a biologist, E.O. Wilson. He did a study of the interrelationship between all the contribution of the various species on the planet to the ecosystem of the planet, and he found that if any species, if it became extinct, that would cause some problem to the ecology. For example, if the plants, if the shrub and the vegetation on the ground, all that got extinct, then the herbivorous animals would suffer. If the herbivorous animals got extinct, the carnivores would suffer. But he found that there's one species. If it became extinct, there would be no problem for anyone in the ecosystem. No guesses. Which one is it?
Yeah, I think it's a human being saying.
Yes, not very flattering about us.
Interesting.
So we are not just redundant, we are actually a burden. In fact, you take this situation around and say, if humans became extinct, most of the problems of the ecology would be solved. This is unflattering and sobering. If we consider a classroom, then if there's one student who is known to be especially brilliant, and if you find that that student's contribution to the class is actually negative, and the teacher is considering expelling the student from the class, maybe the class order and the class performance will become better by expelling that student, then we'll consider what's happening. So if we consider we human beings are actually the most intelligent among the species in nature. That's how we have transformed nature in so many ways. That's how we have got science, technology, language, literature, architecture, music, all those we have got through our advanced human intelligence. And yet the most intelligent of all the species is actually causing the most damage. So what exactly is wrong? So the spiritual worldview explains to us that we are meant to contribute to the ecology at a level higher than the material. The Bhagavad Purana or the Srimad Bhagavatam is an ancient devotional classic from among the wisdom texts of India, and it describes a conceptual vision of creation, and it describes how source of everything created all living beings, and he was not satisfied at that time. Finally, he created human beings, and human beings had the facility, had the faculty to inquire about spiritual truth. And when the humans were created, he felt satisfied. Now the purpose of creation is being fulfilled, can be fulfilled. That means we human beings are actually meant for spiritual inquiry. We are meant for finding spiritual satisfaction. That is what will satisfy us. When we neglect our spiritual side, then we seek disproportionate pleasure at the physical level. See, all living beings have 4 bodily drives. The drive, we want food, shelter, we need food, we need sleep, we need sex, we need defense. Now, among all these 4 needs, if we consider we human beings are practically the only species that does this excessively. Some people eat so much that they get morbidly obese. Today in the world there are some statistics that there are 800 million people who are undernourished, but there's 1 billion people who are obese. So more people are facing problems because of eating too much rather than eating less. So similarly, if we consider each of these activities, it's one thinker said that we eat when we are not hungry, we sleep when we are not tired, we have sex when we don't want to have children, and we fight for no reason. So then why do we do this? Because actually we are, through eating, sleeping, mating, defending, these are bodily drives, and these need to be addressed at the bodily level. And all animals do that. The animals mate when the mating season comes, when the mating instincts come, they'll mate. But when a lion is hungry, it will search and catch a prey and eat it. But if it is not hungry, if its belly is filled, then even if a prey passes by, it will not attack. That's because they are simply functioning according to their biological drives. But we human beings are looking at the biological level for the higher happiness that is actually found at the spiritual level. So we are looking in food, sex, sleep for more pleasure than what is available over there. And in trying to get that more pleasure, we end up exploiting the ecology. So the whole attempt at industrialization, domination of nature, what is the purpose of that? The purpose ultimately is that we are to be happy here, and whatever it takes for becoming happy, we will do that. And so as long as we are seeking pleasure only at the material level, we will not be able to reverse the thought patterns and the behavioral patterns that have caused the ecological problems. Because to stop the degradation of the ecology, we need to change our worldview. In fact, there are eminent thinkers, ecologists, who have said that humanity needs to find non-material forms of enrichment. As long as we think that, oh, I want a bigger house, I want the latest gadgets, I want a big car, I want this, I want that, then to get these things will have a cost on the ecology. So that's why at a practical level we do need measures against specific errant industries or specific activities which are violating certain norms, but they are not the fundamental solution. We need a change of worldview where we understand a different way of belonging to the universe, rather than thinking that this universe, this world is the place where all our aspirations of happiness are to be fulfilled at the material level. We see this universe as a place where we are meant to grow spiritually, and it is at the spiritual level that we are meant to find happiness. So with spiritual happiness, we will be able to, when we get spiritual happiness, then all the ecologists are exhorting, decrease your consumption, decrease your usage of products which are not recyclable. All those, there will be a sustainable impetus for doing those things.
Yes, that's so nice. Yes, so I think what I understand from what you said is how spirituality can help one adjust his world view rather than so what I was wondering now, what does spirituality only
before talking about the worldview just a little bit, often ecologists talk about a 3R formula for minimizing ecological problems. They call it reduce, reuse, recycle. So reduce your consumption, don't get so many things. Whatever you're getting, don't just have use and throw, reuse it. And even if it's not usable, you want to dispose it. Many places you may have different bins, something is recyclable, something is not recyclable. So reduce, reuse, recycle. These are very valuable, but spirituality adds a fourth one, that is revise. Revise your conception of life. It's only when we revise our conception of life, then we will get the impetus for doing these, for changing these things. Because as long as I think that the trappings of material success are the sources of happiness, then if somebody tells me to live simply, what is the reason I should do this? So it means you guys, now for example, say among the third world and the first world, there is a conflict about who should cut down on the things which cost the ecology a lot. So the first world has got a lot of facilities now, and the first world is saying third world, you don't do these things because these are going to cost the planet a lot. But then third world is saying that, but you are enjoying these facilities, why should we not have those facilities? You are responsible for the mess on the planet. Now it is your problem to fix it. But when India became independent, once the Britishers asked Gandhi, they said that now that India is free, will India follow the British model of development? So Gandhiji replied that actually Britain is a small country, and to develop according to its conception of development, it needed resources from the whole earth. India is dozens of times bigger than Britain. To develop the British way, we will need dozens of Earths, and we have only one Earth. So we can't adopt that model. Unfortunately, still that India did adopt that model to some extent. But the point which he made was true, that we need a more sustainable model of development. So, just to give one example of what you were asking about, what can be practically done? So, is this not just a matter of worldview?
Exactly. That is what I was wondering about. I understand that, okay, spirituality can offer a good worldview, a good conceptual understanding, but does it only stop there, or is there anything practical that spirituality has to offer that can really help to help in solving the problems that we are facing? So what are the practical things that which can be done at a spiritual level?
The spiritual is often the foundation for the practical. It's like if in a particular garden weeds are growing, and I uproot the weeds and I put vegetables over there, but the soil over there is not suitable for vegetables. Just changing what I am growing over there is not enough. I have to change the medium in which it is growing. Sometimes I may have to change the topsoil, get a more conducive topsoil, and then the vegetables will grow over there. So similarly, the changing our actions is like changing the growth in a garden. Changing our conceptions is like changing the soil. So reformation requires reformulation. So reformation is change of actions, reformulation is change of conceptions. So change of conceptions alone is not enough, but is essential. Change of conceptions is the basis for the change of actions. That means, say, if we consider the general guideline of ecologists that live simply, say, don't consume so many products which are going to degrade the ecology. And what will give one the impetus to live simply? So the impetus for simple living comes from having access to sources of happiness that do not depend on flashy living. So we have simple living, we have flashy living. So if we are told that don't live flashy, live simply, but flashy living gives some pleasure. So nobody can live without pleasure. So if people get access to means for non-material enrichment, then simple living becomes more easy to do. Otherwise, it is seen as deprivation. So spirituality changes the soil, it changes our conceptions, and thereby gives us an impetus, the conviction to change our actions. The world over, we will see that there are intelligent people who are choosing to live in eco-friendly communities, intelligent people who could be prospering phenomenally in terms of contemporary definitions of success. They could be having big jobs in big companies, they could be having their own companies, and yet they are choosing to live lives of voluntary simplicity in eco-friendly communities. Now what is inspiring them? Now there can be, of course, for many different inspirations, but a major inspiration is they feel that there must be something more to life than this endless treadmill of work more, buy more, work more, buy more, work more, buy more. So they are looking for simple living because they have got a sense that there is something higher to life. So spiritual wisdom takes that sense and develops it. Not just a sense there is something higher, it actually helps us to access that which is higher. And therefore simpler living, wherever we are, that becomes easier when we are living spiritually.
Yes, I think, I think we need a good understanding of why one needs to act, and then how to act will become much more easier. If the why is understood, then how will become easier. I think that's what you're trying to emphasize on.
Well put, yeah.
That's really nice. So, when you were replying, you also said something about eco-friendly communities and living. So I was trying to reflect on that thought. Then, what does spirituality encourage? Whether it encourages one to kind of live as our ancestors used to live in olden times, like live in a village, don't live in big buildings and apartments, or kind of live in a big cities. Or so, what does spirituality encourage? Is it required for somebody to practice spirituality that he can go and live in a forest or a village, or is it possible that one can still do it when living in a city? Or I would like to know some thoughts on it. And yeah.
So, spirituality is primarily a change of intention, not necessarily a change of location. Change of intention. What is it that I am living for? So, where I am living is not as important as where I am going. What is the purpose of my life? Where do I want to go? So, it is not necessary that villages are always eco-friendly. There can be many villages where they may also be living in eco-unfriendly ways. Of course, without products of modernization, the scale of ecological damage that they cause may not be much. But it is not automatic that just rural living is either necessarily eco-friendly or it's necessarily spiritual. Nor is it necessary that urban living always has to be eco-unfriendly or it has to be anti-spiritual. The point is the intention. So certainly we can make that change and bring a greater level of simplicity wherever we are living. So we could use, even if we are living in cities, we could use products which are more eco-friendly. We could try to use sources of fuel which are renewable instead of non-renewable. We could, wherever we are living, find out ways in which we can live more simply. And some people may feel inspired to actually set up a community to demonstrate and experience and relish eco-friendly living in rural settings. So if that's an individual inspiration, that's wonderful, and we do need such people who are inspired. They are very precious exemplars for today's society of an alternative way of living. But it is unlikely that the alternative will become mainstream in the near future. So a significant number of people will be living in cities. But if it is also seen that there are intelligent people living productively, living fulfilled lives in villages, then the excessive glamorization of urban living that is happening, because of which there is continuous immigration from the rural places to the urban places, and that leads to a whole variety of problems and the destabilization of the whole economic systems, that can be avoided. So rather than thinking that we have to turn back the clock, spirituality is about turning on the compass. The compass is our own inner guide. Okay, what is it that I am living for? What am I meant to do in life? And with that inner compass turned on, we will ourselves know what I should do, what I should not do. And we will voluntarily choose to live simpler wherever we are.
That makes sense. It's really helpful, especially for those who live in cities. I think it's pretty reassuring, and it's pretty helpful, I guess, that one can still try to be spiritual and be sincere in whatever he does, and try to be as eco-friendly or as eco-conscious as one can be. So that's very helpful. Now what I was thinking is this, these problems that we are facing are kind of global in nature. They are it's a big scale, massive scale. So I was wondering if spirituality, what can one do on an individual, if I'm an individual and if I want to create an impact on the world, try to help the world environmentally or ecologically, like how can spirituality help an individual to make a practical and significant impact that he can make in this world at a individual level for a global problem.
When you see global problems, there is a tendency to feel powerless.
Yes.
And you feel, what can my small changes make any difference? And then we stay on the way we are. Actually, suppose right now the lights go off over here. For a few moments we might get irritated, we might curse. Now, if say the whole city light goes off because of something, what would we do? We would immediately take out our flashlight, our mobile, and turn on our flashlight. The flashlight does not replace the city lights, but the flashlight shows us our way. And similarly, if say 100 people take out their flashlights, but a significant light. In our day-to-day life, if suddenly we are plunged into darkness, we don't waste our time cursing the darkness. Although removing that darkness and bringing back the normal light is not in our power. What we do is, we turn on the light that is in our power to turn on. So don't curse the darkness. Light one candle. The same way, there is ecological darkness in the world today. So we may feel that it's too big a problem for me to solve. But our individual resource is the only resource that we have. And each of us can be a powerful transforming example. So if every one of us thinks that, oh, what will my alone changing do? Which of us thinks, I can make a small difference. But if it is small, it is significant. Just the flashlight that you turn on, it shows you it's significant for you. It may not be significant for the whole city. It's significant for you. So it's significant. And if we all think that, let me make the small significant changes that I can make. Let me look at my own life. What can I do to become more green in my living? Now, if, for example, the Food and Agriculture Organization has said that if all over the world people became vegetarian, then the amount of land that is required to feed, to produce the fodder that is used to feed animals which are then eaten by human beings, all that land will become free for growing crops for human consumption. And not just the whole world could be fed, actually 10 times the world's population could be fed. And not only that, you say, oh, becoming vegetarian is very difficult for me, I can't do that. Well, take one step. They say that even if people decrease their meat consumption by 10%, that would substantially increase the resources available for developing food for humans. So, wherever we are, let's take small steps in becoming more eco-friendly. And as we take those small steps, we'll ourselves feel reassured and inspired to take bigger steps. The change begins with us.
That's really enlightening. Small steps can make a big difference. So I think we had a wonderful time with you here, and I hope our viewers also gained a valuable experience and they learned something new. Thank you so much for being here with us on the show.
Thank you.
We hope to see you again. Thank you.